House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan joins us now with more. All right. Before we do all of this, let's go to Colangelo for a minute here and talk about him. Now, I would think that the third highest ranking official in the U.S. Department of Justice, that would be considered a pretty prestigious position, would it not, Mr. Jordan, sir?
Yeah. No, it sure would, and that's what Mr. Colangelo had before he went up to work for Alvin Bragg. But, Sean, it's even worse, because he started with Letitia James. So he went after President Trump with the state attorney general. Then he comes and works the number 3 position in the Justice Department, in the Biden Justice Department. And then he goes back up to New York to work for Alvin Bragg and be the chief prosecutor against President Trump in this ridiculous trial where Michael Cohen, the convicted perjurer, the guy who's lied multiple times to everybody, is the star witness.
Now, didn't the issue of, for example, you're the chairman of a committee. We have, last time I checked, we have 3 co-equal branches of government, and that your branch of government, you're a member of Congress, the legislative branch, that you would have oversight over the executive branch, and that would be part of Congress's role, correct?
Sure is. One of our constitutional duties is to do oversight of the executive branch and the agencies that fall under our jurisdiction, Homeland Security, and, of course, the Department of Justice.
All right. Can you then, Jim Jordan, Congressman, can you explain to me, based on what you just said, how it is that the Garland actually mentioned the political impact of the tape early on when the request came in to turn that tape over and transcript over that they didn't want to turn over? That it might have an impact on the election? Because withholding it sounds to me like he's trying to tip the election or the scales of the election in favor of his boss, Joe Biden.
Yeah, and you just played that they said Biden and the Attorney General said they want to be independent and impartial. Okay, that's what we're supposed to evaluate. That's part of our oversight. What we do know is you've charged President Trump with a crime on the classified documents issue, and you didn't charge Joe Biden. Are you really being impartial? Particularly when on page 1 of Robert Hur, the special counsel's report, he says Joe Biden knowingly kept and Joe Biden knowingly disclosed classified information. On page 231 of his report, he said Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures. He knew he was writing a book for which he got paid an $8 million advance. So we have motive, an $8 million motive. We have the elements of the crime met, but Robert Hur says we're not going to bring a charge. We're not going to recommend charges because he's a forgetful, elderly gentleman. Okay, so give us all the evidence. And by the way, Joe Biden's already waived executive privilege when he released everything, including the transcript. We just want the best evidence so we can evaluate if, in fact, the Department of Justice is truly being independent and impartial, which is our job under the Constitution. That's why we held him in contempt, and it passed out of committee earlier today.
Okay. Would that contempt hold into a next administration if, in fact, Donald Trump becomes the next president, the 47th president?
Sure would, and some U.S. attorney who thinks that should be followed up on could do that. But I think what we're probably going to have to do now is go to court and see what a court tells us. But I think the case is strong, and you can go back to the Nixon case when they got the audio tapes and Nixon, and that wasn't after an interview or anything like that. That wasn't in a criminal. That was part of an impeachment inquiry, which, oh, by the way, we're in right now. The House has voted to move into an impeachment inquiry, and all this is part of that. So our case is even stronger than the case that's on point, which was the Mitchell case relative to President Nixon.
Isn't this really about preventing the American people, voters, from seeing Joe Biden asking questions like, was I still president in 2009, and all of the other disastrous moment described by Mr. Hur? Isn't that what this is really all about?
I don't know what their motivation is. I can guess, and I think you can too. I think the viewers can guess. What I know is what our job is, which is to make sure the Department of Justice is living up to the standard it's supposed to be, which is equal treatment under the law for everybody. We don't think that's happening, and frankly,
why
Sean,
else would
that's
they
why
try to
everyone,
hide it?
Yeah, that's why every one of these cases,
they're going to be transparent. We heard Mr. Sams.
Exactly.
He said they're going to be transparent.
Right, until it came to the audio tapes, which is demeanor evidence. You can get the tone, the cadence, the voice. You hear all kinds of things there that are important, I think, pieces of information for us to make that evaluation. But all these cases are falling apart because they're all political. And the country, I think, sees that clearly.
Release the tapes. Let the American people decide. Let's have a free and fair election. Let's get the weaponization of the DOJ out of politics, and let's get law and order returned.